Boys, I'm going to give you the top 10 close range weapons to use inside of Warzone, but if you weren't tracking, watch this video. There have been some stealth changes inside of Warzone that make the game feel amazing. Obviously, we have amazing things like 120 players in Battle Royale. We have buyback solos. We have the new bunkers, unlimited tactical sprints, specialist bonus, Car 98, the Superi, all these amazing things happening, but also some stealth changes. This is from our friends over at GG's AI. If you guys don't know, they're a site very similar to True Game Data, where they actually use AI to help build meta weapons on top of creator builds. But what they found is this. Listen closely.
And number two, a lot of the ADS movement speed for different weapons were changed. For example,
so I'm ripping through it pretty quick, but ADS movement speed for SMGs were buffed. Listen to this.
For the AMR-9, the BP-50, the FJX Horus, the HRM-9, the RAM-9, the Rival-9, the Striker and Striker-9, WSP Swarm and WSP-9 all got buffs to their ADS movement speed. Was that mentioned? Nope. It is nowhere in these patch notes that all those things changed.
Of course not. That wouldn't be the first time that they left something out of patch notes, but this is so important because it makes this game feel like the glory days. Legitimately. I have been the biggest critic of this game, but this season is incredible. Okay, we're talking back to, if you remember all the way back in Caldera, when they had the taped grip, which made all SMGs have incredible movement speed. If you remember back in Verdansk, during the Cold War integration, when they gave us the Raider stock with things like the FFAR, where the strafe speed was amazing, you are able to shatter your opponent's aim assist. And even though we don't have bunny hopping back, because we have aim down sight movement speed back, you are moving and grooving and shooting like never before. So we're going to show you some amazing close range builds. We're going to show you the time to kill so I can statistically back it up. We're going to show you some max movement speed faster than any gun I've seen in recent years. And we're also going to talk about builds for mouse and key players that make tracking so easy, because right now with these iron sight builds and even with optics on it, all the smoke and haze and visual recoil makes it near impossible sometimes for mouse and key players to track. And a lot of times controller players don't have to worry about that because aim assist is helping out a lot of the way. We're going to cover all of that and more in today's video. I've already got dozens of hours of gameplay in this new season. I've got a lot to share with you, and I'm super excited to give you the close range meta. But first, I want to tell you about something that I have been using for over 2 years out of my own pocket, and it's Delete Me. They're the sponsor of today's video, but if you value your privacy and security, you may want to look into it like I did. An unfortunate reality of today's world is your information is for sale, and some people will take it and use it maliciously for things like swatting, doxing, stalking, or even obnoxious things like identity theft and financial scams. Fortunately, you can use something like Delete Me to help protect your privacy and security. You see, there are thousands of data brokers who are out there who are buying and selling your information, and people can get that information to harm you maliciously. And I, over 2 years ago, signed up with Delete Me, and they go through and they scan thousands of those websites, and I'll show you exactly what it looks like right here. This is my personal profile, and you can see they have reviewed over 32,000 listings. They have removed dozens of individual listings, and here's exactly what it looks like. You will get a report that shows how many records they have reviewed, and this is one of my early ones. You can see members since January 2022, and they go through and they scan, and you will see my information, my past addresses, my relatives, my spouse name, age, everything was on these sites, and they start removing them. Now you can go to a more recent one, and you can see they weren't able to find my information anywhere, and I can go through on all of these hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of data brokers. It is clean. My information is safe. If you guys are interested in learning more about Delete Me, you can go down to the link down in the pinned comment or the description, or go to joindeleteme.com/Isaac, and you get 20% off US consumer plans. Huge thank you again to Delete Me for sponsoring today's video. Without further ado, let's get into close range weapon number one, and that is the new Superi 46. And yes, I already have Obsidian on this weapon. I've been grinding, I've been putting in hours, and trust me, when I say these are meta weapons, you gotta trust. We're gonna give you not only max speed builds, max strafe builds, but also some other ones that are pretty special. And I generally don't like new weapons. Most of the new weapons they've added per season have been pretty underwhelming. The Superi is a strafe machine, and also, more importantly, it has the time to kill to back it up. Okay, now if you weren't tracking, there were some stealth nerfs that went through where the Striker 9 actually got nerfed pretty hard. It's about 70 milliseconds slower on its time to kill, even though the Striker used to be a main meta, and it's still pretty decent at the close to mid range. I honestly would not run a Striker as a loadout. The BP-50, it is still very solid at very close ranges, but the fall off is horrible, and they also nerfed the movement speed, which was everything that was good about the BP-50 conversion kit. What we are going to look at is some of these weapons. So the Superi is the baseline. It is so good. It's probably going to be your go-to for most of the season, but there are some other considerations. The Striker 45, not the Striker 9, is right up there with it. Very good at long range, and better yet, it has very minimal recoil. A huge shocker, is the actual Lachmann Shroud. They released a conversion kit that made the burst fire Lachmann Shroud now a full auto, and as you can see, it kills just as fast as the Superi 46, especially when we start to look at 300 HP and overall combination factors. Okay, the FJX Horus is a close-range demon, but it's a bit of a shaker, so it could be good for Rebirth Island and in a very aggressive player's hands, but I would still lean towards a Superi for the average player. The MCW is still an absolute cannon. Okay, great sniper support, but you have to keep in mind, it is an AR, so it is going to have slower movement speed, and it's going to have slower sprint to fire and ADS speeds compared to some of its SMG counterparts. WSP-9 continues to be dominant, very dominant if you don't factor in the open bolt delay, but some people don't like how shaky the gun is, and it has a horrible drop-off after 23 meters. And then finally, the Ram 9, still a very solid pick for a special reason that I'm going to mention towards the end, so do not skip ahead. And we also have a bonus weapon at the end that we're going to mention that continues to rock people's world. But this is the first build, okay? It's the Superi 46 with an aim down sight strafe build. Okay, as you can see, the strafe speed is absolutely incredible here. You are basically breaking people's aim assist, and because of that, it makes your, and I don't know if they stealth buffed bunny hopping, and I don't know if it's related to ADS movement speed, but we actually have some bunny hop movement, possibly due to the increased ADS movement speed that we have from all these weapons. The actual time to kill is incredible that we've already seen. I typically like to rock, whenever I'm rocking an iron sight build, a very bright, like a bright green iron sight, and I'll show you one of those here in a second. But I just had to show off the obsidian looking clean. I had to show off how fast you can strafe with this gun, and this is by far one of my favorite weapons in probably the history of Warzone. So what we have here is we're building around the Jack Cutthroat stock, which helps give an ADS movement speed of 14%. That, combined with the light barrel, which also gives a plus 11%, allows us to just move and zoom across the map. Now, one thing that I do is I rock the edge hand stop, but one thing that I've noticed with the edge hand stop is it actually causes a lot more visual shake. So I want you to compare this, okay? Take a look at this Striker 9. And it's a little bit easier to visualize with a no stock weapon, but if you notice, watch how many times my rear sight bounces as I strafe from wall to wall. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Not too bad. But if I throw on an edge hand stop, which yes, technically the edge hand stop is better in terms of aim down sight movement speed. This improves it by 5% with the DR6 hand stop. The edge improves it by 8%. So instead I get 4.0 meters per second movement speed as opposed to 3.9. But for that 0.1 movement speed increase, watch what it does to my visual shake. Okay, the same amount of time did what? 4 shakes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? Now I throw on the DR6, which is only 0.1 meters per second slower. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And so for me, I will go ahead and sacrifice that, yes, slightly faster with the edge, and I'll go over to the DR6 just because I prefer that smoother strafe speed. I then have the Zim compensator, which helps out getting rid of all that orange muzzle flash and all the concussion that comes with it, and then the 40 round mag as well. Obviously, if you were to ever go down to like a 20 round mag, you could make all these even crazier, but in general, I do believe you need the 40 round mag on this gun. Shooting people through smoke, it has a good amount of damage per mag, but I don't suggest running a 30 or 20 round just because you'll end up running out of ammo unless you're a really experienced player. But that, bringing it all together, makes for an absolute strafe machine. Super easy to shoot straight. And obviously, if you're like me, I like to run a green iron sight or a bright colored iron sight, but I just had to show off this obsidian one more time. Make sure, ladies and gentlemen, you are taking your screenshot of the Superi 46 strafe build. If you guys are taking screenshots, you appreciate the effort that I put into this video, both the stats and putting these through the ringer in game. I already have Obsidian unlocked. Okay, make sure you drop a like on this video and subscribe for even more because we have some insane builds coming up for the long range, as well as some secret, more, you know, kind of like we mentioned at the beginning of the video. There's some secret stuff, some hidden mechanics they didn't mention in the patch notes that I'll be revealing in future videos, and you don't want to miss out. Now, this is absurd. Number 2, the Superi 46, but we're building it for a max movement speed build. Look at the tactical sprint speed. 8.2 meters per second. 8.2 meters per... Compare that to Striker 9 last year with no stock, which most people couldn't control a no stock, and it was 7.3. We have 8.2, and you combine that with double time, unlimited tactical sprint, it just gets more insane. And also keep in mind, when you get specialist, you can get stalker, and stalker makes it to where your aim down sight strafing is even faster. So it just compounds. And just look how fast you are moving across the map. It affects everything, okay? It affects your slide distance. It affects your, obviously, how much ground you're going to cover with tac-stance. And then, of course, as we mentioned earlier, I feel like it also affects our bunny hopping as well. And it's just, even with all that movement speed, very easy to control. Typically, you're talking about, you know, if you want to shoot long range or if you want to have fast movement speed, you destroy your recoil control. Not with this build, okay? So what we have here is the rescue stock. The rescue stock makes it to where you have this incredible buff to our movement speed, plus 8%. That is more than the no stock. The no stock is only plus 4%. So we have plus 8%. We then throw on the short barrel, which gives us another plus 8%. We have the Zim compensator for all that visual recoil reduction. The DR6 hand stop is going to help us with better ADS and better sprint to fire. My general rule for SMGs is an ADS speed of 200 milliseconds or lower and a sprint to fire speed of 100 milliseconds or lower. That's kind of where I like to stick around. And then we have the 40 round mag. Keep in mind, if we were to rock a 20 round, we could get it to 8.4. Now, if you're a very experienced player, and I'd probably only do this for solos, you could rock a 30 round mag and then throw on something like a rear grip, maybe a laser. Both of those could help out with your sprint to fire. Nothing else here will improve your movement speed besides changing your mag. And this is what it would look like if you had a 20 round mag with an 8.4 meters per second tactical sprint speed. I mean, just imagine this with unlimited tactical sprint and you are just zooming across the map. It's a lot of fun. Okay, but what I would suggest is still rocking that 40 round mag. And this is my max movement speed Superi 46 build. Make sure you screenshot. Now, what I would suggest is rocking the max movement speed build or paired with an AR, right? Because it has a little bit less recoil control, but it's still very, very fast and aggressive to clear out buildings. I would recommend running the strafe build as a sniper support because it's going to shoot a little bit straighter at mid-range, and it still is going to be dynamic enough to clear out buildings, but still handle that mid-range. Now, here is one that is an absolute game changer for mouse and key players, okay? One of the biggest frustration with mouse and key players is all of the visual noise that tends to happen when we try to shoot with mouse and key, right? So let's say I go up and I'm trying to shoot this weapon, and all of that smoke and haze and the flash is just really obnoxious on your screen. Don't get me wrong. The two previous builds you could still use on mouse and key and it'd still be pretty decent. Or if I try to shoot this player all the way at the end, they have 3 plates on. I don't even kill him. And I'm like trying to control my recoil. But with this build, we throw on tac-stance. And the tac-stance is so tight. It is basically like you are aiming down sight with perfect aim. Yeah, even players at these long ranges, it is easier for me to shoot with tac-stance than it is for me to shoot with iron sights. And I shoot more consistently with it. And you don't have to deal with all that visual noise. At close ranges, it is plenty accurate to where you're like not missing any bullets. And even at long ranges, which is not the use for it, I'm just trying to prove. I had 15 spare bullets there, and I killed that player. And you're talking about clearing out the inside of a building? If I'm a mouse and key player, and I'm a hybrid player, I play both, I would not rock anything else but this the entire season. Insanely tight spread. And you don't have any of the visibility loss that you would typically have with a regular iron sight build. Inside of gunfights, inside of smokes, I think a mouse and key player is going to love this. Yes, you can absolutely use this for controller as well, but I think tac-stance is going to be geared a little bit more towards mouse and key players because they don't have the aim assist. So what we've done is we've taken the short barrel because it helps out with our tactical stance spread. The no stock also helps out with a tac-stance spread. We have the X10 grip, which helps out by a lot, minus 21%. The Bruin Bastion is another tac-stance helper. And then we also have the 40 round mag. Now, what you could do is ditch the 40 round mag, rock a 30, and then throw on the breacher device, which also helps out by another 9%. But in general, as I've mentioned a couple times already, or you could even, actually, I believe there's, you would probably be better off rocking one of the lasers, right? So this PEQ beam helps out by 20%, and the laser is visible at the hip. Well, that doesn't really matter because we're going to be aiming down sight, right? But in general, you could play around with that, but I prefer to go ahead and rock the 40-round mag just because I like that extra damage per mag. But I mean, this is just special, okay? So this is what I rock. This is my tac-stance and my mouse and key Superi 46 build. Make sure you guys are taking your screenshot. Moving on to number 4. I mean, I'm just telling you, boys, these are so good for both sniper support, aggressive, and tac-stance / mouse and key. It is worth trying out each one of those builds. And I typically don't make multiple builds for the same gun, but it's so versatile and it can have so many different feels. You got to try it out. And the new FJX Horus, which originally was horrible and I told you not to level up, they did end up buffing it this season, making it both more controllable and having more damage. And it used to be very difficult to control the recoil. Not anymore. It's still a shaker, but remember, when we looked at the time to kill chart, this is dominant in under 10 meters. So yes, I could build this gun to be more of a long range beam, but it's going to be outclassed by the Superi. So what I want to do is build this gun to just be an absolute tank under 10 meters, and this would be like my aggressive Rebirth Island type of build. Maybe pair this with an AR if I'm going to hit out a building. This is what I would rock. So we have the Ripper light stock, which helps a bunch when it comes to everything from sprint to fire, tactical stance, or tactical sprint. Still at 7.6 meters per second. Very, very fast. We have the 48 round mag. We have the Moore's dot sight. If you want a little bit more controllable, you could throw on the Jack Glassless, because the Jack Glassless, as we know, helps out with firing aiming stability, which will make this more controllable. But in general, like I said, this is an aggressive player's build. I throw on the Moore's dot. We have the light barrel, which also helps out with our tac sprint speed, and then the Zim compensator, because there is so much visual shake on this gun without it. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to rip through these other ones a little bit faster, but this is the FJX Horus for an aggressive close range SMG build. Heading on to number 5. A sleeper has absolutely snuck into the meta. It is the Lachmann Shroud. Yes, the MW2 Lachmann Shroud is back in, and it's very, very powerful. We saw the time to kill is extremely good, even at what I wouldn't expect to be the mid to long range, like even outside of 20 meters. It's very powerful, and I gotta be honest, just the sound of it shooting is pretty dang cool. Now, I'm not a fan of the gun when it comes to iron sights. I tried throwing on some things, like some different camos. I tried even throwing on, like this was a pretty clean sight that I ended up finding. But for me, something about the iron sight just doesn't do it for me. It's just too much shaking in the back of my face. If you prefer that, go ahead, go crazy. Then you can throw on something maybe like a different stock. Unfortunately, just these MW2 stocks do nothing. Like, minus 1% recoil control. Woohoo. You can attach a rear grip. The ammunition is all MW2 ammunition, which does nothing. You could throw on a laser, maybe, but it's already pretty decent when it comes to its sprint to fire and its ADS speed. So just for me, I would much rather have a clean dot sight, and that's what I decided whenever I built this. We have the Dark Star barrel, which helps bring down that ADS speed, because the ADS speed is horrible without it. Legitimately 268. So you kind of have to rock it. The bad thing about this build, and why I wouldn't consider it top meta, even though it does have top meta damage, is that bullet velocity. 300 meters per second bullet velocity. I can't throw on a muzzle like a sonic suppressor. I can't throw on high velocity because it doesn't exist. So this is definitely going to be an up close and personal weapon, and that's how I've built it, with a DR6 hand stop, the 50 round mag, the Moore's dot sight. If you're playing solos and duos, you could probably rock a 40 round mag as well. And this is my MP5S, the Lachmann Shroud, with the conversion kit, which is the key part down there at the bottom. This is my Lachmann Shroud build for number 5. Moving on to number 6, we also have the WSP-9, which we've talked about it in the past. We're just going to rip through this one really quick. Once again, it is an absolute cannon, but one thing to keep in mind is it does have that open bolt delay. So there is a small delay whenever you press fire to when the bullet actually comes out. Also keep in mind, it does not have good damage range. Also, I mean, it doesn't shoot very straight at long damages, but also it has a pretty bad damage range drop off as well, right? Inside of 30 meters, it hits really hard, but it's definitely an aggressive player's build because it has more recoil. It has an impressive time to kill, but just keep that in mind. The build is the same as we've rocked in the past. Zim compensator, DR6, the light barrel, jack glassless to get rid of some of that shake, and then the 40 round for solos and duos. And if you're rocking trios and quads, you can go and throw on the 50 round as well. Make sure you're taking your screenshot. Next up, as we saw it, it's still incredible. I would pretty much only run this as a sniper support. The MCW conversion kit doesn't have the same rapid movement speed and ADS as some of the other guns, even when we get into the, ADS movement speed, but it has incredible damage profile, okay? Look at it. 221 ADS, 127 sprint to fire. That's just not good enough to be a heavy-hitting SMG to clear out buildings. The damage profile's there, just it's a little bit slower. So keep that in mind when you're using it. Get that gun up a little bit faster, maybe pre-aim a little bit more, or use this for a sniper support to cover that mid-range because it's not going to be as mobile as your other weapons. With the high ground, which gives us, or high grain, which gives us 500 meters per second bullet velocity, which makes it a little bit more viable at mid-range. The 40 round mag, the Jack Raven conversion kit, and then the rapid strike grip to make it all shoot a little bit straighter. This is my MCW conversion kit sniper support build. Moving on to number 8, we actually have another variant of the tac-stance, which is going to be another viable option for my mouse and key players. And actually, the Ram 9 has a tighter tac-stance spread than even the Superi that we were looking at earlier. The tac-stance spread is all the way as low as 0.8. And basically, anywhere when you get to about 1, it basically just feels like it's a complete laser anyways. But this is even tighter. So what you can do here is with mouse and key, once again, is what I would largely suggest it for because it takes away all that nasty visual recoil. Pop it into tac-stance, and now you don't have to worry about all the visual shake that you normally would get. Now it's an absolute laser. Now you do have aim assist, with tac-stance, so you could use this with a controller, but in general, I think there are better controller builds out there. But if you're a mouse and key player, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't rock either this or the Superi as your main close range weapons, just because you have all the benefits of tac-stance with the faster ADS, the better strafe speeds, and you have all the clarity that you know and frankly need in order to play on mouse and key and keep up with the players who have aim assist. And even then, good luck keeping up. But the motion tac pad helps you out with your tac-stance spread by 27%. The demo flak helps out by 43%. The haste grip helps out by 20%. The Bruin Bastion helps out by 17%. And then we throw on the 50 round mag for that extra damage per mag. And this is my Ram 9 tac-stance demon build. And you have to keep in mind, it still does have a very competitive time to kill to keep it up with the rest of the meta. The rest of the SMG meta, they're kind of close here and there. It's not so much that there is only one SMG meta you can be using. It's actually pretty varied right now. So it's in a pretty solid spot. Make sure you guys are taking your screenshot. Moving on over to gun number 9, we have the Striker 45. Now, if you enjoyed the old Striker 9, this is a definite option. I'm gonna give you 2 builds for it, okay? Keep in mind, the Striker 45 has less recoil, better damage up close, and also very comparable damage at the mid-range as well. And honestly, it has pretty good fire bullet velocity too. You could rock this if you wanted to and build out a decent sniper support build for this. But as you can see, I'm trying to keep it up with the things like the Superi. So I built a no stock build so that way we can still have that fast movement speed, but then very, very little recoil. Like you could absolutely run this and handle some mid-range targets if you needed to. But the best thing is, that's a no stock recoil, okay? This is a suggested build that I would have if you prefer the iron sights, but I'm gonna show you an alternative because I know some people don't like the iron sights. We have the second grip, no stock, striker recon long, and the flash, or the Zim compensator. Once again, if you wanted to throw on a sonic suppressor, you could get as high as 700 meters per second bullet velocity, which is really impressive. But with the no stock, you need the Zim compensator. Here is my iron sight build for the striker. Now, if you prefer to have a little bit more visibility, what I would suggest is doing something like the Jack Glassless. So then you can combine that to have a clean iron sight, or rather a clean optic as opposed to a clean iron sight. You do lose some of the recoil control of the Seiken grip, but I know some people just prefer to have a clean sight to look through. And the firing aiming stability that you get from the Jack Glassless definitely makes this a confident and comparable build for what you can need. Now, once again, you could go in, you could get rid of the no stock, you could throw on high grain, you could throw on a sonic suppressor and really get some insane bullet velocity, but then you're going to start hurting your movement speed. And with how fast all these other guns are, I really think you should rock something like this so that way you can keep up with the pack and not get outran by some things like the Horus and the Superi. Make sure you're taking your screenshot. And then finally, heading on to number 10. And ladies and gentlemen, if you learned something new about whether it's time to kill, a new weapon, a new attachment, whatever it may be, if you learned something, you found some value in this video, do me a favor and drop a subscription. It helps out the channel a lot, and make sure you have those notifications on so you can be the first one to find out about some crazy guns like this one right here. The good old tier. I have dropped consistent 20s and 30s with this weapon, and if you don't know, comparing it to the Superi, every other weapon that we were talking about today, the Superi kills in 630. The tier kills in almost twice as fast, 350. Even if you miss a bullet with the tier, it will still kill faster than every single one of the guns listed. Why is that the case? Because you get your hands on the tier conversion kit. And with the tier conversion kit, it makes the damage profile unbelievable. 180 to the upper torso. That's including arms. So within 18 meters, you can two-shot someone to the upper chest, including arms and the stomach. You can two-shot someone, anyone above their waist. At longer ranges, you can two-shot headshot at longer ranges, like any range. And then at 20 meters and above, you can three-shot someone to the chest. It is so good. I know I got a little bit convoluted there, but I'll show you what it looks like, okay? Long story short, bots, put on 3 plates, up close, 1-2. Mid-range, headshot, body shot. Long range, you can just do a same thing. Headshot, body shot. It's that good. And yes, it is absolutely a high skill player's weapon. It's kind of a meme weapon. You only have 5 rounds. I would only use this in solos, but I've done this. I was actually solo trioing with this weapon and dropped the 30. I played with my buddy Spiros and we played duos together, and we're clotheslining people. And as you can see, great spam potential, easy recoil control. At mid-range, it's 3 to the chest, which is still faster than a Superi. At close range, it's 2 to the chest or the arm, and it's so good. High risk, high reward, but a lot of fun and still definitely meta-worthy. It is the tier with the conversion kit. We have the Nidar. Unfortunately, they don't have the Jack Glassless. We have the old fire, or the Fury trigger, which helps our fire rate. Of course, we need the conversion kit. With the DR6 hand stop, because it does have an ADS speed of 260 milliseconds, which is definitely slower, but it does have a decent sprint to fire of 75 milliseconds. And then the billeted break. The reason I rock this is because it helps out with firing aiming stability. It also helps out with that vertical kick. You could throw some other things on here to help improve the movement speed, like rocking a laser or something, but without the billeted break, for me, it gets a little bit too hard to control. So this is my tier conversion kit. Absolute pocket shotgun, one of my favorite weapons to run, and my number 10 close range meta of the day. Make sure you're taking your screenshot. But ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow we are having a long range meta video, so make sure you don't miss out on that. Drop a like if you were taking screenshots throughout this video. A huge shout out again to Delete Me for sponsoring today's video. And by the time you see this, I should be live over on Twitch collecting even more gameplay and getting even more guns Obsidian inside of Warzone. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoy the new season as much as I do. We have a lot of new content on all channels now that the game is in a really, really good spot. Peace.